Hey everybody, ready for something mind-blowing? We're
Always.
diving deep into Hopi Prophecies today.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
you guys sent over some seriously fascinating material. We're talking blue star kachinas,
Right.
mysterious rock carvings, and a
Yeah.
world on the brink of major change, or Kuyanasquatsi, as the Hopi call it.
Yes.
I'm super curious to see if these ancient predictions hold up against what's actually happening
Right.
in the world. And
Yeah.
I've got just the person to help us decode it all.
Well, it's a question that has captivated people for centuries.
Oh, yeah.
Do prophecies offer a genuine glimpse into the future, or are they simply stories meant to guide us?
Right.
The Hopi prophecies, in
Mhm.
particular, are known for their vivid imagery
Yeah.
and their warnings about the consequences of straying from a path of balance and respect for nature.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Sure.
We've got to start with the Hopi Blue Star Kachina prophecy.
Right.
It's all about this Blue Star Kachina, which represents the star Sirius
Mm-hmm.
appearing in the sky
Right.
and marking the beginning of the fifth world, a time of purification, but also potential upheaval.
Yeah.
Some even think it's connected to alien encounters.
Oh, wow.
So,
Well, Sirius has held a powerful place in many cultures throughout history.
right.
The ancient Egyptians, for example,
Hmm.
associated Sirius with the goddess Isis
Oh, wow.
and the life-giving floods of the Nile. So it's not surprising that the Hopi,
Right.
with their deep connection to the cosmos,
Right.
would also view Sirius
Yes.
as a harbinger of change.
Yeah.
But the interpretations of this prophecy are incredibly diverse,
Uh-huh.
ranging from a literal alien visitation
Oh,
to
right.
a more metaphorical shift in global consciousness.
So are we talking spaceships or a spiritual awakening?
Right.
What's interesting is that the Hopi
Yeah.
see the physical and spiritual worlds
Yeah.
as deeply intertwined.
Mm.
So their prophecies often blend concrete events with symbolism, making it tricky to separate the literal from the metaphorical.
Exactly. And that's one of the challenges of interpreting prophecies, understanding the cultural and cosmological context in which they were created. For the Hopi, reality isn't neatly divided into separate boxes. Everything is connected, and their prophecies reflect that holistic worldview.
So how does this idea of a world out of balance, or Koyaanisqatsi, fit into all of this?
Well, Koyaanisqatsi is a core concept in Hopi thought.
Okay.
It describes a state of living that is unsustainable,
Hmm.
a world where humans have lost touch with the natural order and are heading towards self-destruction.
Yeah?
Many of their prophecies warn about the dangers of Koyaanisqatsi,
Mhm.
pointing to things like environmental destruction, social injustice,
Right.
and the relentless pursuit of material wealth as evidence that we've strayed from the path of balance.
You know, it's hard not to see some of those signs in the world today.
Right.
But before we spiral into an existential crisis, let's talk about something that really caught my eye. Prophecy rock.
Oh, yeah.
It's this incredible rock carving
Right.
with all these symbols that seem to depict a clash
Yeah.
between traditional and modern ways of life. We've got the Great Spirit, two paths diverging,
Mm.
Christian crosses,
Yeah.
Hopi corn.
It's a visual feast of symbolism.
It is.
Prophecy rock is a powerful representation of the challenges the Hopi people have faced,
Mm.
particularly as Western culture encroached upon their traditional way of life. The prophecy embedded in this rock art centers on the moment when a kakina,
Yeah,
a sacred being,
right,
removes his mask in front of uninitiated children.
right.
It's a symbolic act that signifies the end of the old ways, a period of disillusionment, and then, crucially, a potential for renewal, a new cycle in Hopi life.
It's almost like a societal death and rebirth, right?
It is.
And it makes you think about those moments in our own lives when we felt disillusioned or lost,
No.
only to find a new path
Right.
or purpose emerging from the chaos. Right. But the Hopi prophecies don't shy away from depicting some pretty dark scenarios.
No, they don't.
There's a lot of talk about war,
Yes.
environmental devastation,
Right.
and a world teetering on the brink of collapse.
Yes, the prophecies are filled with warnings about the consequences of our actions.
Right.
There are chilling descriptions of gourds of ashes falling from the sky,
Mhm.
boiling rivers,
Oh, wow.
and incurable diseases, imagery that resonates with modern anxieties about nuclear war and environmental disasters.
Right.
And it's not just about physical destruction.
Yeah.
The prophecies also speak of societal unrest,
Mm.
moral decay,
Right.
and a loss of spiritual connection, things that certainly echo the anxieties of our own time.
And then there's this chilling prophecy about bringing something back from the moon, which when you think about the Apollo missions,
All right.
is a bit too close for comfort.
This prophecy is particularly intriguing. The Hopi warned that bringing something back from the moon would disturb the natural order, leading to earthquakes,
Wow.
severe weather changes, and social unrest. It's a powerful cautionary tale about the potential consequences of scientific advancements, without considering the ethical and spiritual implications. It asks us to consider if there are limits to human exploration,
Right.
and whether we've crossed those boundaries in our quest for knowledge and progress.
It's a question we grapple with even today,
We do.
especially as technology continues to evolve at such a rapid pace.
It does.
But amidst all these warnings,
Yes.
there's also this intriguing figure, the true white brother,
Right.
who's supposed to play a key role in events leading up to a day of purification. Tell me more about this enigmatic character. Is this an actual person or more of a symbolic archetype?
That's a question that has sparked a lot of debate.
Has it?
The prophecies describe the true white brother arriving from the east,
Hmm.
carrying a missing piece of a sacred tablet,
Oh, wow.
and accompanied by two helpers,
Right.
one bearing a swastika, which in this context represents purity, not the distorted symbol it later became, and another with a sun symbol. Some believe these figures represent actual individuals or groups,
Right.
while others see them as symbolic representations of forces or spiritual energies.
So are we talking about a savior figure or a symbolic representation of positive change?
Right.
It's all incredibly intriguing.
The interpretations are complex and ambiguous.
Right.
What we do know is that they're prophesied to usher in a period of judgment for humanity, a time of reckoning that ultimately leads to a new era of peace and unity. But it's not a passive process. The prophecies emphasize that we have a choice,
Right.
that we can either continue down a path of self-destruction or choose a different way of being, a path that aligns with the principles of balance, respect, and spiritual awakening.
So it's not just about waiting for a savior to arrive. It's about actively participating in the creation of a better world. That brings me to another set of prophecies, the 9 signs leading to the end of the 4th world, as described by White Feather, a Hopi elder. Do these signs actually line up with historical events? Because if they do, that would be pretty mind-blowing in terms of accuracy.
Let's delve into those signs and see what we can make of them. The first sign speaks of the arrival of white-skinned men who take the land that is not theirs and strike their enemies with thunder.
It's hard not to think of European colonization and the introduction of firearms when you hear that.
Right.
What about the other signs?
Well, the second sign talks about spinning wheels filled with voices crossing the land. This was witnessed by White Feather's father with the arrival of the pioneers' covered wagons.
So that seems to line up pretty neatly. What about the rest?
The third sign describes a strange beast like a buffalo,
Okay.
but with long horns overrunning the land. This is interpreted as the introduction of longhorn cattle by European settlers. The fourth sign talks about snakes of iron crossing the land,
Which many believe refers to the railroads.
It's amazing how these seemingly abstract descriptions can be connected to specific historical developments.
It is.
What about the remaining signs?
The 5th sign is a giant spider's web crisscrossing the land,
Okay.
which many believe refers to electric power and telephone lines.
Right.
The 6th sign describes rivers of stone that make pictures in the sun. And this is interpreted as concrete highways and their mirage-producing effects.
Okay, so far these interpretations seem pretty convincing. What about the final 3 signs?
The 7th sign is about the sea turning black and many living things dying because of it,
Oh, wow.
which is a chilling premonition of oil spills and their devastating impact on marine life.
It's incredible how the Hopi, even centuries ago, seemed to foresee the environmental consequences of human actions. What about the last 2 signs?
The 8th sign is about many youths with long hair joining tribal nations to learn their ways and wisdom. This is interpreted as the hippie movement of the 1960s and their embrace of indigenous cultures. That's fascinating. And the 9th and final sign.
The 9th sign speaks of a dwelling place in the heavens.
Okay.
Above the earth that shall fall with a great crash, it will appear as a blue star. Many believe this refers to the U.S. Space Station Skylab, which fell to Earth in 1979, and according to some Australian eyewitnesses, appeared to be burning blue.
Wow, that's a pretty specific and eerie prediction. It does make you wonder if those first 9 signs seem to have come to pass. What does that say about the other prophecies? Are we truly on the verge of a global shift, a day of purification, or even the emergence of the 5th world?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And that's what we'll explore in more depth as we continue our deep dive. Welcome back to our deep dive into Hopi prophecy. Before we really get into it,
Yeah.
let's circle back to this concept of the fifth world
Okay.
for a moment. It's this idea of a new era emerging, characterized by peace,
Right.
harmony, and a deeper connection to nature and spirit. But how do we get from a world seemingly teetering on the brink of collapse to this idyllic vision?
Right, because a lot of the prophecies we've discussed so far
Yeah,
seem to focus on destruction and upheaval.
I do.
It's like things need to fall apart before they can be rebuilt. It makes me wonder,
Yeah.
do the Hopi prophecies offer any clues about how this transition might actually happen?
They do, but it's not a passive process.
Right.
The prophecies don't suggest that we just sit back and wait for some external force to swoop in and fix everything. Instead, they emphasize the importance of human agency,
Okay.
of making conscious choices that align with the principles of balance,
Okay.
respect, and spiritual awareness. It's about recognizing that we're not simply victims of fate, but active participants in shaping the future.
So it's not just about waiting for the true white brother or some other savior figure to show up and solve all our problems.
Right.
It's about each of us taking responsibility for our own actions and contributing to the collective shift towards a more harmonious way of being.
Exactly. The prophecies speak of a critical mass of individuals awakening to this truth, choosing to live in a way that honors the earth, respects all life, and recognizes the interconnectedness of all things. It's about shifting our priorities from material gain and self-interest
Right.
to a more holistic and compassionate way of being.
You know, when you put it that way,
Yeah.
it almost sounds like the prophecies are calling for a global spiritual awakening. But is such a profound transformation really possible,
Right.
especially given the state of the world today?
Right.
I mean, we're facing some serious challenges. Climate change, social unrest, political polarization. It can all feel pretty overwhelming.
It's true, the challenges are immense,
Yeah.
but the Hopis believe that human beings have an incredible capacity for change. They point to the fact that we've overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles throughout history.
Right.
The key, they suggest,
do.
lies in remembering who we truly are, spiritual beings, having a human experience, interconnected with each other and with all of creation.
It's a beautiful and inspiring vision.
It is.
But I have to admit, it's hard to reconcile that with the reality of what's happening in the world right now. We see so much greed, violence, and disregard for the environment. It can feel like we're heading in the opposite direction of this harmonious fifth world.
It's understandable to feel that way.
Yeah.
The prophecies don't shy away from depicting the dark side of human nature, but they also remind us that we have a choice.
Right.
We can choose to continue down a path of self-destruction, or we can choose to heed the warnings,
Yeah.
embrace a different set of values, and work together to create a more just and sustainable future.
That brings me back to something we touched on earlier, this idea that the Hopi believe they will be saved.
Right.
I find this concept fascinating,
Yeah.
but also a bit troubling. It makes me think about the whole idea of chosen people and how it's often been used to justify exclusion and even violence throughout history.
You've hit on a really crucial point.
Yeah.
The concept of chosen people can be a double-edged sword.
Right.
On the one hand, it can foster a sense of identity, purpose, and responsibility.
Okay.
But it can also lead to a sense of superiority and a justification for mistreating those who are perceived as outside the chosen group.
So how do we navigate this tricky terrain?
Yeah.
How do we acknowledge the Hopi's belief in their unique destiny
Right.
without falling into the trap of exclusivity and intolerance?
I think it's about recognizing that every culture,
Right.
every tradition has something unique and valuable to offer.
Yeah.
The Hopi Prophecies, for example, provide a powerful message about the importance of living in harmony with nature,
Right.
respecting all forms of life, and recognizing our interconnectedness. That's a message that resonates far beyond the Hopi community.
Right.
It's a universal truth that can guide us all towards a more harmonious and sustainable future.
It's about finding the common threads,
It is.
the universal wisdom that transcends cultural boundaries and speaks to the human condition as a whole.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we're all in this together. Regardless of our background or beliefs,
Right.
we all share this planet,
We do.
and we all have a responsibility to care for and for each other.
Exactly. And that's what the fifth world ultimately represents, a state of being where those divisions and hierarchies fall away and we come together as one human family, living in balance with each other and with the earth.
It's a beautiful and inspiring vision,
It is.
but I can't help but wonder, If the Hopi prophecies are accurate,
Yeah.
and we are indeed headed towards a major global shift, what role do they see themselves playing in this transition?
Right.
What about the rest of humanity?
Right.
Are we all meant to embrace Hopi traditions and beliefs?
The Hopi prophecies don't suggest that everyone needs to become Hopi.
Right.
They recognize that there are many paths to spiritual awakening,
Hmm.
and that each culture has its own unique wisdom and traditions to offer. What they emphasize is the importance of returning to a way of life that is in alignment with the natural order,
Okay.
a way of life that honors the earth and all its inhabitants.
So it's not about imposing a specific set of beliefs on everyone,
Yeah.
but rather about inspiring a collective shift in consciousness,
Exactly.
reawakening to our interconnectedness and our responsibility to care for the planet and each other.
Exactly. And that's where the idea of the true white brother comes back into play.
Okay.
The Hopi believe that the true white brother will not be a single individual, but rather a collective of people from all walks of life who have awakened to this truth and are working to bring about positive change.
Yeah.
It's a call to action for all of us,
Right.
regardless of our background or beliefs, to step up and contribute to the healing of the world.
It's a powerful and empowering message. It suggests that we're not simply pawns in some preordained cosmic drama. We have a choice.
Right.
We have agency. We can choose to align ourselves with the forces of love, compassion, and wisdom, and work together to create a future that reflects those values.
And that's what the fifth world ultimately represents, a world where those values guide our actions, where we live in harmony with nature, and where we recognize our shared humanity as the foundation for a just and sustainable future. But achieving this vision won't be easy. It will require courage,
Right.
commitment, and a willingness to challenge the dominant paradigms that have led us to this point of crisis.
It's a tall order, but I think the Hopi prophecies offer a roadmap,
They do.
a source of inspiration, and a reminder that we're not alone in this journey.
We're not.
There are people all over the world who are working towards a more just and sustainable future.
Right.
People who are heeding the warnings, embracing the wisdom of ancient traditions, and choosing a different path.
And those are the seeds of the fifth world, the seeds of hope, resilience, and transformation that are being planted all over the planet. But as with any garden, those seeds need to be nurtured,
Right.
protected, and given space to grow. And that's where our individual and collective actions come in.
This idea of individual action really resonates with me.
Yeah.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the scale of the challenges we face. But the Hopi prophecies remind us that even small acts of kindness, compassion, and conscious living can make a difference.
It can.
It's about shifting our mindset from feeling helpless to feeling empowered,
Right.
from feeling like victims to feeling like agents of change.
Exactly. And it's about remembering that we're not just creating a better world for ourselves,
Right.
but for future generations as well. The Hopi prophecies emphasize the importance of thinking 7 generations ahead, of considering the impact our actions will have on the world our children and grandchildren will inherit.
It's a profound and challenging perspective.
It is.
It asks us to step outside of our own immediate concerns and consider the long-term well-being of the planet and all its inhabitants. But it's also a hopeful perspective. It reminds us that we have the power to create a legacy of beauty,
Right.
harmony, and sustainability for generations to come.
And that's what the fifth world ultimately represents, a world where we live in right relationship with ourselves, with
Yeah.
each other, and with the earth. It's a world where we honor the wisdom of ancient traditions, embrace the interconnectedness of all life, and work together to create a future that is both just and sustainable.
It's been a truly mind-expanding deep dive into the Hopi prophecies.
It has.
We've explored prophecies that seem to align with historical events,
We have.
and prophecies that paint a picture of a world on the brink of major transformation. We've also delved into the profound spiritual teachings embedded within these prophecies
We have.
and considered how they might guide us toward a more harmonious and sustainable future.
It's been a journey through time, culture, and the very depths of human consciousness.
It has.
And while the prophecies certainly offer a sobering assessment of our current situation,
Right?
they also offer a glimmer of hope,
Yeah.
a vision of a world where peace, harmony, and respect for the earth prevail.
Before we wrap up our exploration of the Hopi prophecies, I'd love to delve a little deeper into some of the specific practices and teachings
Right.
that they offer as guidance for navigating these turbulent times and co-creating a better future.
Right.
But we'll save that for part 3. of our deep dive.
Until then, we invite you to reflect on what has resonated with you most deeply during our conversation. What stands out as particularly relevant to your own life and your own understanding of the world? And how might you integrate these insights into your own journey of personal and collective transformation?
Welcome back to our deep dive into Hopi prophecy. We've covered some seriously heavy stuff.
We have.
Prophecies that seem to align with historical events,
Right.
a world out of balance,
Uh-huh.
and the possibility of a major global shift. But in the midst of all that, there's this glimmer of hope in the form of the fifth world, a new era of peace, harmony, and spiritual awakening.
Right.
Before we wrap up, I'd love to explore some of the specific practices and teachings that the Hopi offer as guidance for navigating these times and co-creating that better future.
It's a crucial aspect of the prophecies that we haven't fully explored yet. This idea that they're not just predictions, but also a call to action.
Right.
The Hopi don't just tell us what might happen, they also offer guidance on how to live in a way that aligns with the principles of balance, respect, and spiritual awareness.
So it's like a roadmap, not just a forecast.
Exactly.
What are some of the key practices or teachings that stand out to you?
One of the most fundamental is the emphasis on living in harmony with nature.
Okay.
For the Hopi, nature isn't just a resource to be exploited.
Right.
It's a sacred web of life that we're all a part of.
Right.
They believe that when we lose touch with nature, we lose touch with ourselves and with the spiritual forces that govern the universe.
That makes sense. I know I always feel more grounded and centered after spending time in nature. It's like hitting the reset button on my whole system.
Yeah.
But for people who live in cities or don't have easy access to nature,
Right.
how can they cultivate that connection?
There are many ways, even in urban environments. It could be as simple as growing a few plants on your balcony, visiting a local park, or even just taking a few moments each day to appreciate the beauty of the sky or the trees.
Right.
It's about making a conscious effort to bring nature into our lives, even in small ways.
It's about shifting our perspective, seeing ourselves not as separate from nature, but as an integral part of it. What other practices do the Hopi emphasize?
Another key teaching is the importance of simplicity. The Hopi believe that the modern world's obsession with material wealth and consumerism is a major contributing factor to the state of Koyaanisqatsi. They encourage us to simplify our lives,
Right.
to focus on what truly matters, our relationships, our communities, and our spiritual well-being.
It's a message that resonates deeply in a world that often feels consumed by materialism and a constant striving for more.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are realizing that true happiness and fulfillment don't come from accumulating possessions, but from cultivating meaningful connections and living in alignment with our values.
Exactly, and that leads to another important teaching, the practice of gratitude. The Hopi believe that gratitude is a powerful force that helps to restore balance and harmony in our lives. When we focus on what we're grateful for, we shift our attention away from scarcity and lack and cultivate a sense of abundance and appreciation.
I love that. It's so easy to get caught up in the negative,
It is.
to focus on what we don't have or what's wrong with the world.
Mm-hmm.
But when we take the time to appreciate the good things in our lives, it can have a profound impact on our overall well-being.
And it's not just about feeling grateful, it's about expressing that gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
The Hopis believe that it's important to give thanks for the gifts we receive, whether it's the food we eat,
Right.
the air we breathe, or the love and support of our families and communities.
It's about acknowledging the interconnectedness of all things, recognizing that we're not isolated individuals, but part of a vast web of life.
Precisely. And that brings us to another core teaching the importance of community.
Mm-hmm.
The Hopis have a strong tradition of communal living where everyone works together for the common good. They believe that when we come together in a spirit of cooperation and mutual support, we can achieve great things.
It's a powerful reminder that we're not meant to go through life alone.
No, we're not.
We need each other. We need to support each other, to learn from each other, and to work together to create a better world.
And that collective effort is particularly crucial in times of crisis or transition. The Hopi prophecies speak of a time when people will need to come together
Right.
to pool their resources and wisdom
Right.
to survive and thrive in the face of unprecedented challenges.
It's a reminder that we're stronger together than we are apart. But it's not just about physical survival, is it?
No, it's not.
It's also about spiritual resilience.
Exactly. The Hopi prophecies emphasize the importance of inner strength,
Right.
of cultivating a connection to the spiritual realm,
Right.
and of developing practices that help us to stay grounded and centered in the midst of chaos.
So we're talking about things like prayer, meditation, and ceremony.
Yes, those are all important practices in the Hopi tradition. But it's not about adopting specific rituals or dogmas. It's about finding what resonates with you,
Right.
what helps you to connect with your own inner wisdom and strength.
It's about cultivating a personal spiritual practice that supports us in navigating the challenges of life and staying true to our values.
And it's about remembering that we're not alone in this journey. The Hopi believe that we're all guided and supported by spiritual forces, whether we call them ancestors, spirit guides, or simply the universe itself.
It's a comforting thought, especially when we're feeling lost or overwhelmed. It's a reminder that there's a greater intelligence at work, a force of love and wisdom that's always available to us if we're open to receiving it.
And that brings us to one of the most important teachings of all the power of hope.
Mm.
Despite the dire warnings and challenges depicted in the prophecies, the Hopi never lose sight of the possibility of a brighter future. They believe that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit has the capacity to rise above adversity and create a world that reflects our highest aspirations.
It's a powerful message, and one that's needed now more than ever.
It is.
It's a reminder that we have a choice,
We do.
that we can choose to focus on fear and despair, or we can choose to focus on hope and possibility.
And that choice ultimately is what will determine the course of our future. The Hopi prophecies don't offer a guarantee of a happy ending. They simply present us with a choice.
Right.
A choice between continuing down a path of self-destruction or choosing a different path, a path that aligns with the principles of balance, respect, and spiritual awareness.
It's a powerful and challenging message. It asks us to examine our own beliefs, our own actions, and our own role in shaping the future.
It's a call to awaken to our true potential as human beings, to step into our power as co-creators of reality, and to work together to create a world that reflects the best of who we are.
Wow, this deep dive has been quite the journey.
It has.
We've gone from prophecies that seem to align with historical events
Right.
to a world on the brink, to a vision of a brighter future, and now to practical guidance on how to actually get there. It's a lot to process.
It certainly is. But I think that's the beauty of the Hopi prophecies.
Yeah.
They offer a holistic perspective, a way of understanding not just what might happen, but also why it's happening and what we can do about it. They invite us to engage with these teachings on multiple levels, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually.
What are your final thoughts for our listeners as we wrap up this exploration of Hopi prophecy?
I would encourage everyone to approach these prophecies not with fear or dogma, but with an open mind and a discerning heart. Take what resonates with you, leave what doesn't, and allow these teachings to inspire you on your own journey of personal and collective transformation. Remember, the future is not set in stone. It's a canvas upon which we each have the opportunity to paint a new reality.
It's been an incredible journey. Huge thanks to you for helping us to decipher these complex and profound prophecies.
My pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it as insightful and thought-provoking as we did.
And remember, the power to create a more just and sustainable world lies within each of us. Choose hope. Choose action. Choose love.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep choosing the path that leads to a brighter future for all.